All right,
Are you ready to go?
anytime you're ready.
Good evening and welcome to the March 16th, 2023 regular Board of Education meeting. We'll start with the roll call. Ms. Haas.
Mrs. Bukta?
Here.
Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Mrs. Selly?
Here.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Nickram?
Here. And we'll start with Pledge Allegiance. And as we do at the start of every school board meeting, we read our vision and mission statement. Our vision statement is achieving distinction in all that we do, while our mission statement is cultivate an inclusive, high-performing culture of growth and community. And moving on to item 2 on the agenda, we have school board election information, I believe for Ms. Selly.
Yes. So the school board election, or the spring election 2023, at the March 26th, 2023 board meeting. The April 4th, 2023 spring election will include 2 open school board seats and 1 operational referendum question on the ballot for the school district of Fort Atkinson. The following school board candidates' names will appear on the ballot: Matt Loop, Corey Nickram, and Amy Reynolds. The elected school board members will take office on Monday, April 24th, 2023. The school board candidates have been invited to speak at today's board meeting if they would like to do so. On the back of the ballot, you will find the operational referendum question asking voters for $8 million for the purpose of paying district operating costs. A community referendum Q&A session was held tonight just prior to the board meeting. Polling places will be open on April 4th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and everyone who is eligible to vote is encouraged to do so.
Alrighty, thank you. And we're moving right along to the remarks from school board candidates. And I believe, Matt, you are up first.
Hello. As I told Lisa Haas, it'd be very brief remarks. Just wanted to reintroduce myself. I've met, I think, everybody here. My name is Matt Loop, candidate for school board. I'm running out of a deep sense of gratitude to the district and the community for what they've done for our students. I'd like to serve on the school board to be an advocate for all of our students, and I appreciate all the work that you've done. Thank you, Dr. Abbott. Thank you, Mrs. Haas. And thanks to all the school educators and administrators who are here tonight also. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Your turn.
Good evening, fellow school board members. I have to admit, this is a bit odd in front of you all here as the incumbent, but here we are. I have been given the privilege by the taxpayers of the school district to experience being a school board member for the last 3 years. Like any public position, there has certainly been some great moments and certainly some forgettable moments. Above all, I'm proud to sit up here to be running for my 2nd term. I believe due to the hard work by the educators, administrative staff, and support staff, the school district of Fort Atkinson is in a better position than when I joined in 2020. Many people throughout the last number of weeks have asked me why I'm running again. There are a number of reasons why I have decided to run again. First of all, I'm proud of the education that we're providing in Fort Atkinson. We are continuing to make a stronger push towards being the preferred educational option in the region, and we are continuing to make progress on the strategic plan. I understand the power of having strong leadership and educational team. We have exactly that. Looking forward, we have a huge day coming up for the taxpayers of the district on April 4th. My hope is that all voters educate themselves on what exactly the school district of Fort Atkinson is asking. We are not asking you to dig deeper into your pockets. The proposed referendum would allow for the public school tax rate to be at or below the current tax rate. We will undoubtedly, regardless of the referendum, be financially prudent and continue to right-size our staff to our enrollment. That will never change. As a candidate for the Fort Atkinson School Board, I believe I provide the board with a few unique perspectives. From running a business located in Fort Atkinson to hiring Fort Atkinson graduates, I am lucky enough to understand 2 sides of the individual. From a student's education to how our graduates operate in the workforce is something that I'm prideful of. Secondly, like many of us here on the board, we have or have had children within the district. I have 2 children, one in 3rd grade and one in 7th grade, both of which are not happy. I'm looking at them right now. And an incredibly supportive wife. I take a great amount of pride in helping to lead their education while demonstrating leadership. It's important to me that we take ownership in making Fort Atkinson better. That is simply part of who I am. I'm excited with the opportunity to serve on the board for another 3 years. Thank you for your time.
I feel like we should clap or something.
Yeah,
Okay, bring this way down.
Lower down, sorry.
Amy Reynolds, I am running again for school board. The past 3 years have been very educational and very unique. And it has been a wonderful experience for me. I've learned so much, got to work with some amazing people that a lot of them are here. And I would love to be able to continue to run and to continue to do some of the great work that we're doing. I have a different perspective than some of the others, you know, being a mom and having the different educational background that I do. So I bring a little bit different thoughts and ideas to the table. So I would love to be able to continue that for the next 3 years.
Alrighty.
I still wanted to clap, so.
Alrighty, moving on to section C of part 2 is the date for school board reorganization. Dr. Abbott.
Yes, so we are asking that the board plan for a meeting on April 24th, which is the date that the new board will be seated for 5:30 p.m. in the Luther boardroom. That's usually a fairly quick meeting, but that's the date that we need to have the new board seated.
Okay. Do you have any questions or discussion at all?
I'll make a motion to be it resolved that the reorganization meeting of the Board of Education be scheduled for Monday, April 24th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. in the Luther boardroom. Again, I so move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rogers, a second by Ms. Bukta, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Alrighty, moving forward to the consent agenda, Dr. Abbott.
Yes, Robert's rules provide for a consent agenda listing several items for the approval of the board in a single motion. Documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members in advance to assure for an extensive and thorough review and will become part of the permanent record. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. This evening you have item A, minutes from the February 16, 2023 regular meeting. Item B, personnel, resignation requests effective at the end of the 2022-23 school year. Kimberly LaFave, 1.0 FTE English Language Arts teacher at Fort Atkinson Middle School. Barry Hegelstead, 1.0 FTE art teacher at Barry Elementary. And Cody Watson, 1.0 technical education teacher at Fort Atkinson High School. Also a resignation request effective June 30, 2023 for Jason Demarath, 1.0 FTE Director of Business Services for the district. Then item C, Board Policy 8500, Food Services, and Policy 5113, Open Enrollment Program. That is the second read of both of those policies. Then item D, Start College Now, Early College Credit Program requests for Youth Options Report. Item E, consider 4K provider contracts. Item F, the 2023-24 School Nursing Services Contract. And item G, gift to the district, which includes donation from the Rotary Club of Fort Atkinson, donated in the amount of $1,500 to the to the Luther Elementary School playground. A donation from Christine Banishinsky of winter coats and gloves to Luther Elementary with an approximate value of $250, and a donation from Patty Coughlin's pub in the amount of $250. Item H, business transfer budget transfer requests, and then item I, payment of district bills and the treasurer's report.
Alrighty, thank you. Do we have any further discussion or would like to pull anything out on the consent agenda this evening?
I'd like to pull out item B, the personnel appointment, transfer, resignation, and retirement requests.
Okay.
Specifically, I'd like to see if Mr. Demarath would be interested in talking to us just in terms of a transition.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what we'll do is we'll be voting on A, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I first, and we'll go back through and we can discuss that after that.
Is there a motion on the floor for that?
There's not.
I so move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Rogers, a second by Ms. Reynolds, and Ms. Haas, roll call, please.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mrs. Bookta?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Selly?
Yes.
Mr. Nickram?
Yes. All right, we can pull that out and have further discussion on item B of the agenda.
Yeah, so I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to hear a little bit more about kind of your expectations of the transition being, you know, with the referendum on the table, with you being so intimately close to the budget, the high level of detail you provide us, just to understand the June 30th, kind of that date and why you felt maybe that date was a good period for transition.
Sure, and I prepared something here to address that, and I'll go a little deeper into that too. But as I mentioned in my letter to the board, after nearly 15 years serving the Fort Atkinson community, it's with mixed emotions that I come before you this evening, asking for your approval of my resignation as Director of Business Services for the school district, as I've accepted a position as Executive Director of Financial Services with CISA 2. This new professional opportunity will allow me to blend my passion for the financial management of an organization with my passion for serving the school business official profession by working with the 74 member districts within the CISA 2 region. I greatly value the time I've spent here and appreciate those I've had the opportunity to work with and serve. I did want to ensure that there's an understanding that my resignation is unrelated to the upcoming operational referendum. I'll be in the position for nearly 3 months following Election Day and have worked with CISA 2 to ensure a smooth transition. With Fort Atkinson being a member district of CISA 2, I'll still have relationships and connections with the district to serve you and assist my successor in the transition. It's also my hope that the district and this position is set up well for the future. Through a successful capital referendum last November, our buildings will be in a place to meet community needs for the next several years. Should the April referendum be successful, the operational needs of the community will be met for the next 4 years, leaving the Fort Atkinson team and community in a place to look forward with a solid financial foundation to continue building upon. I'm asking for your approval of my resignation contingent upon the CISA 2 board's approval of my employment at their meeting next Tuesday evening. My last day with the district will be June 30th. However, as I mentioned, I'll work with Dr. Abbott regarding a transition plan and maybe around to assist with the audit and other fiscal year-end tasks after June 30th. And obviously being a CISA 2 member district, I'll work with my successor in that capacity as well. And so with the audit in August and year-end being June 30th, I'll come back, I'll probably work with CISA some days before and then come back some days after June 30th to work through those details as well. So, but thank you for the opportunity to serve the students of the Fort Atkinson community during my time here.
Where will you be situated when you take your new position? Where will your office?
The offices of CISA 2 are in Whitewater,
Okay.
in the Innovation Center.
Innovation Center.
Yeah. The CISA 2 operates on a hybrid model, so there are certain days that I'll be able to work from home, but also be there in the office. And given CISA 2 serves districts from the west side of Madison all the way over to Lake Michigan Lakeshore, a lot of the staff travel within the region as well, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and seeing as we've pulled that out, we will need, if anyone has got any further discussion or questions, we've pulled that out, so we'll need a separate resolution for item B on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to say congratulations, Jason, for the, position. I mean, I think that, you know, you've been here a long time, but I can understand looking for something that is, you know, a promotion, a different set of,
Responsibilities.
things to do and, challenges. So, I know you're leaving the district not on bad terms, so I think that's great, that this is really just a step in your career. So I think that's fantastic. And I appreciate also the fact that there is such a long transition, because you've been here so long. I think that's really important, that you've given that kind of good faith to the district to say, I'm going to make sure that I put someone in the best position, and you're going to be working with them anyway. So congratulations, and thank you also for that transition period. Appreciate that.
I think we all appreciate your efforts in the last 15 years, and good luck in the future.
So we need to pull this one out. So be it resolved that the Board of Education, where is it?
On the bottom.
Thank Jason Demarath, Director of Business Services, for his 14 and a half years of service and dedication, that one? To the students and community? That doesn't seem right. Oh, except sorry, I got it now. It's the one right above.
Yes.
I already thanked you, but be it resolved that I officially thank you.
Very
But now, be it resolved that the Board of Education accept the following resignation request effective June 30th, 2023. Jason Demarath, 1.0 FTE, Director of Business Services for the district.
I'll second.
It needs to be all of item B, which includes
Yeah.
the other
Oh, I
resignations as well.
apologize.
So you could, if you so wish, choose to make a resolution just naming the item as B, and then all that is below that would be covered.
I move that item B that was pulled out of the consent agenda be approved.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Ms. Selly, a second by Ms. Bukta, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? All righty.
Really rough.
Moving on, we're going to go back up. I have skipped over the comments from audience on agenda or non-agenda items tonight. Do we have any?
We have nothing submitted electronically, so if there are not people in the boardroom this evening.
All righty. All right, so we're going to move to item 5 under instruction for summer school course offerings.
Yes, Mrs. Oakley, our Director of Instruction, is with us to kick off the season that we call summer school.
Yay. Good evening. It's always a pleasure to come this time of year when spring is close to talk about summer, right? This evening, I bring to the board with a request to approve 128 offerings this summer. So more than we've done in the past, and it continues to grow. A little bit about those offerings. We continue to provide a very robust traditional enrichment courses for grades K through 8. Those are the for fun courses that we offer at Purdy and Luther. We also offer academic, including what we call maintenance courses for students who are at grade level but are just wanting to stay connected to their academic learning in the summer. We offer math and reading intervention for our students looking to make some nice gains over the summer months. We offer enrichment and academic camps for a variety of grade levels. We also are entering into our 3rd year of our Summer STEAM Academy with the first week of August. In addition, we offer credit recovery courses at the high school as well as special education summer programming as needed. Just a quick breakdown of that overall 128 number. We have 60 offerings for our elementary and middle school students for courses in 32 camps. And at the high school, we have 20 enrichment courses with 16 camps. So really something for everyone. If they're looking for a longer term opportunity to engage, we have that for them. If you're looking for a week-long opportunity, we have that as well. I always like to spotlight what's new this summer. We have a couple of classes returning this summer. One, we are returning the American Girl class with a specific focus on the historical characters. That'll be over at Purdy. We have a new Book Friends class focusing on popular authors like Mo Willems and some of the much beloved characters that kids will enjoy spending time with this summer. We have a new class called Nature Explorers that will be a science class for our littles over here at Luther. Canva Creations, which is a graphic design class. We have a new photography and video production class. A new class over here at Luther called World of Wheels, which is everything to do with vehicles, motion, the science aspect of how things move, as well as just lots of time to play with things that roll. So we have a new course called Electronic Music Production, where students will learn how to produce their own music on the computer. And last but not least, for our new K-8 courses, we actually are going to be able to offer piano during summer school this year. So we have full-size keyboards coming in, and we have a teacher that was willing to teach Introduction to Piano. As far as new elementary camps, we have a stop motion animation camp. We also have a new series of camps called Dance Camp, which is a very active, fun camp under different dance styles. And we also are excited to bring an elementary summer choral camp for those students who would like to have a choir experience over the summer. So lots of new things for our K-8 learners. A little bit about what's new at the middle school. Again, we have a middle school version of the dance camp, as well as a music producer camp for our middle school learners. And we're excited to offer an AP Human Geography boot camp, because you remember that's a new course. So those AP boot camps in the summer have been popular, where we get kids in and they have an opportunity to engage with some of their early learning from the year. It's been a popular option for our high school students. The music producer camp will also have a version offered to high school students, and a new choral camp as well for our middle school, high school students. So lots of new offerings for our secondary learners too. I get to be the first one to do the public announcement of what our STEAM camp theme is this year. So this year we are going off-road. If you remember, our first year we were underwater submarines. Last year we were airplanes. This year we're on the ground. So speed tests, motorized vehicles, remote controls, track design, obstacles, everything going off-road challenge for that first week of August. So if you're in grades 3 through 8, hopefully you can join us for STEAM Academy. Priority registration opens April 11th. We're a little bit later just by where Easter falls this year, but we will get the word out. Our best request for our community is to register during priority registration. We do our very, very best efforts to get everyone what they ask for during priority registration. After that time, some classes do close, so we really try to get the word out. We will offer as many sections as we need to get kids what they need, what they ask for. It's also a great time for us to get schedules and all those things ready so that when summer comes around, we're ready to roll. So Tuesday, April 11th through Tuesday, April 18th. And last but not least, we're hiring. So we've been doing quite a bit of hiring already, but if you know a qualified teacher who might be interested in doing some fun experiences with kids this summer, please send them our way. We have postings on our website as well as on Weekend. So I can answer any questions you might have about summer school course offerings.
Who comes up with these classes? I mean, it looks very...
Well,
I think Mr. Rogers might be interested in
Well,
helping
I
with the
am.
do you want to
dance
teach
class.
summer school?
Take some of the classes.
Attorneys and Maine, right? We sometimes a teacher comes forward with an idea. Sometimes we advertise for specific classes that parents have requested. So every year at the end of summer school, we ask parents, what would you have loved to have your child be able to access? And then we do our best to see if we can get as many of those on the books for the next year. So piano has been one we've been hearing for a while. Some things with like vehicles, that's where the World of Wheels came. We had another request for like nature survival stuff that we've added the last couple of years. So, and then we put it out there, and it's amazing. The right person usually comes forward, and finding a teacher that has a passion for an area and then connecting them to just some time to be with kids to have a lot of fun is kind of a magical thing that we do in summer school. So,
Well, it's well thought out.
thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think the classes are great. I mean, I, as a professional, have just been introduced to Canvas, so the fact that you're introducing it to kids now,
Exactly.
to use that is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
Agreed.
they're learning things that they can apply.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So I do have a couple of questions. Do you find that it's harder to have like the high school students attend? Because I noticed like the there's a lot more classes for elementary school, which is really cool. And, you know, there's starting to be a little bit more for the, for middle school, but high school, it doesn't seem like they have as many. Is it?
So, if those of you who've been connected to summer school before, we used to have very, very little, if any, for middle school, high school. And what we learned is those students really aren't looking for that 5-week experience, 8 to noon. Number one, they don't want to get up that early. Number two,
Okay,
it's a big commitment, and often they have sports, or they have sports camps, or they work, or things like that. So the camp opportunity for us has been really lovely, in that it's often 1 week, or it's often a day or 2 days a week over the summer, and that's really attracted older students to the offerings. We're always kind of at that threshold of how do we offer enough that kids will take it and fill. And what I found is that anytime a teacher, especially a teacher from the district, who comes forward and teaches a class, just that teacher often attracts students, because kids want to be in that class and be around that person and learn in the summer. So we take whatever camps come forward. We don't specifically hire for camps because they're so short term.
Okay.
So the camp teachers are all our local teachers or veteran summer school teachers that have been with us for a long time. But, you know, it's interesting. I get, we fill them, but I don't often get a lot of that we don't ever have to turn away a secondary student. So we continue to try to build that part up. I know Dr. Abbott will remember a time when I don't even think we had any opportunities for middle school and high school.
I don't think you'd have to go back that many years, you know, and I was just looking at these numbers now, and just from past experience, I'm not sure they would have even made the slides. So the amount of growth in the last 4 or 5 years has been dramatic and very successful, you know, based on interest or common interest or excitement around a topic, I think has really been great. I also appreciate how we've reorganized things like marching band or some other sort of curricular activities into a camp format as well. I think it's a nice entry point, just as one example, a nice entry point for some students as well, or a way to bring some of our new families or middle school families into the high school experience in August as well.
We also get quite a few high school students who want to come help with summer school. We take summer school volunteers, and they have a fond memory of summer school at Luther or summer school at Purdy, and then they connect to a class if they loved sewing or they loved Minecraft, and kids love having old, you know, high school student volunteers. Mm-hmm. So that's been very successful for us too, especially if a high school student is looking to try on the being a teacher, or explore being a teacher, or just wants to have something to enjoy in the summer. So that's been another place we've routed high school students who are looking for experiences.
Awesome. And I do want to take some of them too.
We joke with, I think DJ was going to take one too.
Well, actually, if it's possible to do a board and admin RC car retreat one night in August, I think we could have fun with that. So.
A-Team Steam Academy. Right?
The car one might be a little safer than the planes that I saw
Yes,
last year.
we-
Some of those were
Fair
going
enough.
a little far. That might have been a little dangerous for the
Summer school does provide the opportunities for me to call Dr. Evans and say, well, I have to tell you about, we have a plane stuck in a tree.
Text messages you never think you'll be getting.
Jeffrey
We
called
sent up a
looking for their-
drone, is what she said. So.
We did. They had such a great time, and STEAM Academy has been such a nice addition for those students who are really passionate about that area. And we doubled our numbers last year, and we already have people calling to see if they can sign up for STEAM Academy. So it's been a fun addition.
How's the, I think I ask this every year, but like, how's the hiring process at this point in the game?
We are looking great. So we are in a better. I shouldn't say that. We have had some really outstanding connections to UW Whitewater. So the stronger we've made that connection, hiring brand new educators as summer school teachers is a beautiful opportunity for them to try on their first classroom in a fun atmosphere. So I believe this week we've interviewed and offered 9 summer school positions.
Wow.
And I think I have 3 more next week, so we're really looking good right now. People appreciate the fact that our summer school program staff appreciate that our summer school program is very structured. We run summer school very similar to how we run during the school year. Safety precautions are the same. There's a principal on site. All of those, creature comforts that you want to come and everything's run well. Whereas that's really been attracting some people to us, which is nice.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Amy, so you said that you welcome high school volunteers. How do they go about being able to have that opportunity?
Sure. So typically we hear about them, either they connect with us directly through the summer school office or on the summer school website, there's a spot for I'd like to volunteer. Some students do it as their community service hours. Others connect through the teacher that they remember that they had. For instance, they come back and they play chess or they work with a specific class. So calling the summer school office or filling out the volunteer form on the website, and we'll definitely get in touch with them.
Thank you.
And we interview each of them to make sure that they understand the commitment and all of these. So it's a nice experience for the students that way too.
All right, thank you for the presentation.
You bet.
Thanks very much.
Right, and we have a motion in front of us for the summer school program.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the 2023 summer school program course offerings. I so move.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogers, a second by Ms. Reynolds. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, moving on to new high school course proposals for fall 2023.
Yes, as the board will recall, we were very pleased with a number of course offering updates or additions to the high school program that we entertained late in the fall, I believe, as well. And so this month, we're happy to bring 2 more offerings for our high school students that we think will be really dynamic additions for some of our younger high school students.
Yeah, so thanks so much for entertaining a couple course proposals coming a little later in the year than we typically do. Through the process of continuing to study how our offerings are competitive with our area districts, as well as to continue to explore how to better connect students with opportunities that give them post-secondary benefits. We started to dive in with the high school English department, and I have 2 staff members here this evening that can answer questions you might have too, Mr. Dan Hansen and Mrs. Julie Newberry. We started to explore the idea of using AP courses as an alternative to the accelerated English offerings we currently did. So this is a swap class. This is a replacement for a current class. What this really does is our previous classes were accelerated classes that we had created locally by connecting to the AP, the English 10 AP seminar and the AP language and composition class for English 10 and English 11 respectively. We really have the opportunity to connect to that credential. Students have more opportunity to earn post-high school credit, high school credit at a university or college. We also have the opportunity for students to access more AP courses, which gives them the chance to earn some of the AP distinctions that are based on quantity of classes taken. The English 10 AP seminar is really one that we think will bring us some distinction, as not only is it an English class, but it's also a really lovely class for kids to take in preparation for any other AP class that they choose to take. So we're pretty excited about bringing these offerings. The English department has done a lot of work to do the learning in this area, and we're felt like it was too good to wait another whole year before we launched. So I can answer any questions, or I can have Mr. Hansen or Mrs. Newberry answer questions if you had any specific to the courses.
Yeah, I would be interested in understanding, AP courses are typically, you think of them as for college credit. And so introducing that at grade 10, do you have any concerns about the preparedness of students and what their background has been in accelerated or regular English courses?
Sure. I can, while Dan is making his way up here. As we recall, increasingly AP classes are offered to students at a younger age in high school. So AP Human Geography now will be offered to freshmen. Students who are very much seeking that challenge, the rigor, are finding that they're appreciating the fact that the AP class actually has that distinction on their transcript, and as you said, benefits them post-high school. But specific to English, Dan can speak to the benefit of these.
Thank you. Yeah, AP Seminar, which one would be replacing Accelerated 10, is actually specifically designed by the College Board to kind of be an entrance ramp into the world of AP. They've actually done their own in-house research that taking AP Seminar raises students' scores in what would be our next two, AP Language and Literature, but also in the Social Studies department with AP US History and AP Government and AP Psych. They haven't done their own research on the sciences, but I'd be willing to bet they will find the exact same thing. So that course is actually specifically, like, it might not be, maybe they took Human Geo, but if it's their first ever AP course, that's exactly what it's designed to onboard students into that program and what the AP looks at and things like that. So it'll be perfect for younger students and build up the skills that will make them successful at those higher levels.
And kids that are already, because we already have gone through the high school enrollment, kids who are in the accelerated English 10, not asking for any students specifically.
Sure.
But will they,
So what we'll do,
what will happen? with
yes,
them?
so,
Feels differently.
so not that you might know any of them, right? No. So what we'll do is, after the board considers the proposals this evening and next month, or whenever it becomes something that you can revisit, usually there's a layover. Once they're approved, if they're approved, we will reach out to all the students that registered for Accelerated English 10 and English 11, explain the transition. If they would like to stay registered for now English 10 AP Seminar, they just do nothing. We keep them there. If they'd like to move to the regular English 10 or the regular English 11 because of the AP distinction now, we would just do that before schedules are run. So our intention is, and answer any questions they might have, encourage them to talk with their English teacher if they're feeling a little nervous. Yes. Yeah.
And do you find that the challenge in the accelerated English 10 right now is on par with what it'll be for the AP English Seminar? Or do you think it will be different?
Yeah, that is both a simple and complex question. There are certain areas where the rigor is higher, but the class is designed to specifically scaffold to those skills. So for example, I mean, it's the English department. We already do plenty of close reading, but the AP will have us do even more close reading. And the curriculum is designed so that over the course of that entire class, they do more and more of that and get very used to it. So there are going to be some skills that we will do at a higher level of rigor with the AP Seminar, but it's designed to do exactly that. So I don't anticipate that students who are, that this is their thing and this is what they want to do, will struggle more. It will just be that it'll be a little bit different flavor of class for them.
We also, in order to enter into the accelerated classes, we have prerequisite data criteria. So these are also students that already have indicated or had demonstrated that they have the ability to do an accelerated class. So I don't think that prerequisite criteria would be any different for the AP class than our current accelerated class.
And we'll probably find, just a guess from me here, that students that make it through seminar will feel more confident about taking Lang. And students who take Lang will feel more confident about taking AP Literature, which is our senior class. I informally polled my literature class kids, like, what did you think your sophomore year or junior year, the first time you took an AP class? Like, yeah, we were terrified. Someone said, my first was APUSH. I really wish it hadn't been because I didn't feel like, I did okay, but it was scary. And so I'm like, if there was a class that would kind of like introduce you to the AP world more and get you like, oh, in a heartbeat. So I think we'll find out our kids are more confident to do some of these things after this.
That's really good. Thank you. I'm assuming the individuals with accelerated English 10 right now, you're going to have a high percentage of them.
That's
I mean,
we
almost all of them.
anticipate that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wasn't making sure I'm not missing something there.
Yeah, no, we anticipate that the majority of students who selected the accelerated will be pleased with the opportunity to access another AP class.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Thank you to the English department and Mrs. Oakley, you as well. This is a great opportunity
Yeah.
for students.
Thanks.
So
We're pretty excited about
really
it.
nice addition.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So we have a resolution in front of us. As customary, we put this, place it on the table and consider for approval at the next board meeting, but we have a resolution in front of us today.
Be resolved that the following new high school course proposals for fall of 2023 be placed on the table and considered for approval at the April board meeting. English 10 AP seminar, replacing Accelerated English 10, and AP English Language and Composition, replacing Accelerated English 11.
I'll second.
I'll make a decision on that.
When you play the tape back.
We have a motion by Ms. Bookta and a second by likely Ms. Reynolds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? All righty, thank you, Al. Moving on to item 6 for non-instruction, Dr. Abbott.
Yes, we're going to invite Mrs. Turnbull, I almost use the last name, our Director of Human Resources, to come down and present the board a presentation related to early retirement retirement incentives rather for our support staff.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. You may remember me standing here just 2 months ago recommending a proposal for a one-time retirement incentive for our certified staff group. Tonight, I'm back to share with you a proposal for a similar one-time retirement incentive for the 22-23 school year for the support staff group. In your board packets, you also have a memo outlining this proposal, which covers many of the same details I'll be sharing in my presentation to you tonight. In order to provide you with a full picture of the proposal, I'll be sharing with you the identified need, the proposal as a solution to the need, how the proposal fits into the bigger picture of other benefits that staff may be eligible for, and then finally what the next steps might look like depending on the board's approval of the proposal. So first, we'll discuss the need for consideration of a one-time retirement incentive. This slide should look familiar to you as you've seen it at probably just about every board meeting for the past year or so. As a reminder, the board agreed to use these budget planning strategies to guide our work based on our financial forecast from about a year ago. Since then, we have continued to reference back to these strategies as a roadmap to guide us. The 3 strategies I want to focus on tonight are here: right-sizing our staff, evaluation of vacancies, and analysis of our current programming to answer the question you see. Will attritions of retiring and departing staff positions be enough to meet our need of right-sizing to enrollment and our financial needs? And although I can't give a definitive answer to that question tonight, I can bring forward this proposal which will support maximizing the number of retirements that feed into the attrition potential. I'm excited to share that we did find some success and positive feedback from the certified staff retirement incentive you approved in January, receiving 7 retirements as a result. I believe we have an opportunity to provide equitable access to a similar benefit with our support staff group, particularly because unlike certified staff, support staff do not have a set date by which they must indicate their intent to resign or retire effective with the end of the school year. As such, we typically see an influx of mid to late summer resignations or retirements in this staff group, accounting for approximately 50% of our annual turnover for this staff group during this short time frame. Now that you understand the need for consideration of this one-time incentive, I'll share the details of the proposal itself. This proposal would be a one-time retirement incentive for support staff who finish their employment with the School District of Fort Atkinson at the conclusion of the 2022-2023 school year. That means that for school year staff, their employment would end whenever their typical last workday is. This year for most, it would be June 8th. And for 12-month staff, their employment would end effective June 30th of 2023. Unlike our certified staff incentive, the amount for support staff would be individualized as 15% of the staff member's 2022 calendar year earnings. Why 15%, you might ask? Well, 15% correlates to the incentive amount for certified staff as compared to the annual earnings for staff in that group. Because this support staff group includes both full-time and part-time staff, as well as both full-year and school-year staff, offering a flat dollar amount as an incentive would simply not provide an equitable benefit across our eligible population. This incentive would be paid on the June 23rd, 2023 payroll date. In order to be eligible for the incentive, support staff would need to be at least age 62 by August 31st of 2023 and submit their intent to retire on or before 4 p.m. on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. The age requirement aligns with the age requirement for other post-employment benefits for this particular group, and the deadline provides staff with about a month to make a decision and allows us to have information about how many people are taking advantage of this incentive prior to our next regularly scheduled board meeting. Similar to that of the certified staff proposal, we continue to prioritize wanting to retain our current staff with remaining longevity in the district. This proposal targets those who may already be considering retirement and supports our efforts to not lay off staff members who desire to continue to work in the district. As I alluded to a few minutes ago, this incentive would also create a timeline for notification to the district for an end-of-year retirement for the support staff group where one does not currently exist. Many of our end-of-the-year retirements from support staff occur with very little notice, creating an influx of summer turnover, leaving the district with very little time to make adjustments if necessary. Some support staff may also be eligible for other benefits upon separation from the district. So let's take a few minutes to look at what those might entail. All of these benefits would be available to the staff in this group above and beyond this one-time retirement incentive. We do currently have a retirement or post-employment benefit for support staff, but it is limited to staff who were hired prior to July 1st of 2011 and who are health insurance eligible, meaning that they were either grandfathered under a memorandum of understanding or they currently work 6 or more hours per day. It requires that staff be age 62 by the date of their retirement and that they have at least 10 years of service to the district immediately preceding retirement. So these staff would have continued access to district-sponsored health insurance, which could be subsidized for up to 36 months or until the employee reaches Medicare eligibility. Support staff who are at least age 62 and have been with the district for at least 15 years are also eligible for a percentage of their sick time to be paid out to them, up to a maximum of 90 days. The payout is tiered between 82% and 100%, and that's dependent upon the age and years of service the employee has, and all those details are outlined in the support staff employee handbook. Support staff who are 62 but do not have at least 10 years of service or are not health insurance eligible are not eligible for any district-sponsored post-employment benefits. However, they would be eligible for annuity benefits through the Wisconsin retirement system as long as they've been a participant and met WRS eligibility guidelines. Again, all of these benefits mentioned in this section would be in addition to the proposed one-time retirement incentive to kind of create a whole package for those who may access that. So finally, what do our next steps look like in the immediacy and beyond if the board opts to approve this proposal tonight? First, we would send out communication yet tonight, as we did with the certified staff incentive, following the board's approval to the eligible staff members. This communication would be sent via email and include information specific to the incentive, information specific to the individual's OPEB or other post-employment benefit eligibility, and what that benefit would be, Wisconsin retirement system contact information and resource links, and contact information for my department staff. We feel that communicating this information with staff right away allows for ample time for the eligible staff members to make fully informed decisions. And it also limits that time where they're in limbo going, what if, is it me? That way they know right away. Again, our hope with this incentive is that it will impact those who are already considering retirement and had the least longevity remaining within our organization while preserving the relationship with staff who do continue working for the district beyond this year. Looking beyond the initial communication to staff, we still have a very tight timeline for doing some incredibly important work. Between now and April 4th, we're working to mobilize our community to vote on the April 4th election, which is the date of our operational referendum vote. April 18th will be the deadline for the support staff retirement incentive, with the regular April board meeting being only 2 days later on April 20th. April 28th is the last date for approval of any preliminary notices of non-renewal, which would apply just to that certified staff group. And May 15th is then the last day for final notices of non-renewal and issuance of staff contracts. On top of those concrete dates, we have some ongoing work that we're doing that is just as important and time-bound. We're currently going through our insurance renewal process and reviewing compensation data to build out that part of our financial projection for the 2023-24 school year. In our effort with the safe passage of this referendum is to limit the number of layoffs, if any. So we're also reviewing and analyzing all of the data that we have related to retirements and resignations. In order to do this, we're evaluating all of our vacancies for the possibility of attrition in order to right-size our staff. We're also looking at those vacancies in positions that cannot be attritioned to consider the most strategic way to use the staff we have remaining through transfers or reassignments in terms of positions or duties. This may look or feel different or a little uncomfortable because it's a deviation from what we've done in the past. However, I think everyone can agree that if we can answer the question of, will attritions be enough with a yes, the discomfort will absolutely be worth it. And with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any-
Do you have a certain number that you're looking for to pony up to this offer?
There is not a specific number that we are looking at as a goal. There are 23 staff who are eligible, and that includes staff from all of our support staff categories, so custodial, administrative assistant, food service, and those paraprofessional or student support positions. And so obviously some of those are of benefit where we could do some transitioning, and some of those are non-negotiable positions that we have to fill regardless. Again, we'll do what we can with what we have. We'll fill the positions that we have to, and then do some reorganizing if possible to gain some momentum with those other positions.
We could just lay off these people, could we not?
We could.
Yeah.
Again, our hope is to preserve the climate and culture of the people that want to stay. So giving the people that are kind of ready to take that next step in their lives or put that end cap on their careers, to give them the opportunity to do so that we're not laying off someone that really wants to be here and continue on in their career.
One of the things that was interesting in working through the certified staff retirement incentive were some that maybe we thought were going to retire or had a sense that maybe they were and chose not to, but instead really recommit to the district and recommit to the work and recommit to the good things that we have going. And I think that would be the same with this group as well, that we'll have some that will be very appreciative of the board's support and acknowledging their time and effort in the district, and others that have some time left and are anxious to continue their work with the district. And we've also worked very hard to treat all of our staff groups as equitably as possible between. And yes, there are different provisions and requirements for certified versus support staff, but we felt like this was a respectful, equitable approach to creating some shifts in the support staff sufficient for us to restructure some of those current positions and needs that we might have moving forward.
Are non-certified staff required to sign a contract like teachers do?
No, they get an annual, it's called a reasonable notice of assurance that we provide them in the spring, letting them know that it would be our intention to bring them back to a reasonably similar position in the fall. And that serves to kind of guarantee, at least at that moment in time, employment, to limit ability to collect unemployment over the summer, just showing that continuation of employment. But there is no reason that once that was issued to a person that other decisions couldn't be made if necessary.
I think this is really, really awesome that we're, that we're trying to do and support our support staff. Do you know if there's any other districts that are doing something similar like this?
To my knowledge, they're not.
So we're special.
We are special. I have heard when we were researching the certified staff incentive, I am aware that there have been other districts who have done that in the past, maybe not currently, but I have not been made aware of other districts that have exercised a similar initiative related to their support staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word you used, uncomfortable, is what this whole conversation is in terms of just talking about staff and whether positions are not going to be there. I mean, it just is. I mean, it makes me uncomfortable, it makes anyone uncomfortable in any sort of business district, anything. You used the word I was gonna use is, I think it's really respectful to our support staff to give them a similar incentive to what we did to our certified teachers. I think what it says is our support staff is valued in this community, it's valued in this district. It's a necessary part, but looking at right-sizing staff with lower enrollments and potentially a lower budget, depending on what the referendum, how that comes out, that this is a respectful way to say, if you're considering retiring, if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking next year, this year, I'm not sure, this is an incentive to say, oh, we respect you and we would like to, not just do layoffs. So I appreciate the proposal and I appreciate that it's being done for support staff also.
Well said, thank you. Alrighty, if there was no further discussion, we have a motion in front of us.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve a one-time retirement incentive in the amount of 15% of the individual staff members' 2022 earnings for support staff who declare their intent to retire effective June 30th, 2023 by no later than April 18th, 2023, and who have reached age 62 by August 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Selly, a second by Ms. Reynolds, and a roll call, please, Ms. Haas.
Mrs. Selly,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds,
Yes.
Mrs. Bukta,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Nickram.
Yes. All right, and moving on to the operational referendum update, Dr. Abbott.
Yes, we'll take just a moment for the slides to come forward. Yes, certainly, as all here are aware, and I hope all in our community, in our larger school district as well, are aware, we do in fact have an operational referendum question coming before our voters on April 4th, just a few short weeks from our meeting this evening. When we were together last, we were talking about phase one. That was the preliminary planning, the steps, the scaffolds in order for us to be ready to launch our efforts to best communicate with our public so that they were as informed as possible to make a very informed selection on their ballot on April 4th. We're clearly into phase two. Launching those communication efforts in earnest last week. Depending on where you are in the community, there have been mailings and emails and text messages and phone calls and in various different forms of communication, all in efforts to best inform our community as to what the needs of the district are, what's required for our district to remain whole for the next 4 years, and for us to continue working hard on our strategic plan goals. So those efforts will continue. I would also just point out, and perhaps later as well, that all of the information is out. We're not holding anything back at this point. All of the information that's available is being prepared and in some cases reworked for even better understanding based on questions we're getting, but there's nothing left to drop. At this point, we've tried very hard and will continue to illustrate our need, illustrate the necessity, and illustrate what is needed for us to continue moving forward. That will carry us through next week, and then the week after we're in spring break, where we know many of our community may not be leaving town, but will be joyfully enjoying some distractions perhaps than the regular routine in some cases. And then upon our return, April 4th, that Tuesday is Election Day. And of course, the Easter weekend is the next weekend. So our efforts are also to encourage people to vote, given the confusion, is not to mention daylight savings time and some nicer weather probably as well. As we've talked before, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it this evening, but there's a couple of different ways to answer the question as to what's at risk. And I like this one best, because as we've been working through our information and background with our teachers and with our families and with our students and our larger community, these points of pride are items that people easily cite specific examples of. And we have hundreds of responses to this survey, which is related to these points of pride. What are the celebrations? What are the things about our school district that make us unique and make us the best show in the area when it comes to quality education for students? And building levels and district and throughout time, because this also relates to celebrating Public Education Week just a few weeks ago, these points of pride are what makes the work humbling, because it's not always the big stuff. Sometimes it's about the relationships, sometimes it's about something really small, and sometimes it's about some of the big efforts we have underway. But when you ask people to share what pride they have in the public schools that we all certainly do not take for granted in Fort Atkinson, this has been perhaps the most humbling and exciting or dynamic part of our communication effort thus far. This slide, I think, bears, and we're using this in some of our materials as well, an approved referendum and continuing to control expenses will avoid a budget deficit while providing quality programs for our students. And for me, the timing of this couldn't be much better following Mrs. Turnbull's presentation just a few minutes ago, because we're trying so hard to demonstrate to people that we have two paths underway currently. We have the right sizing of the district because that's the right thing to do given the fact that our enrollments are smaller than they were. That's what people have elected you to do. That's what you've hired me and others to do, is to be as fiscally prudent based on our student needs at that time. The right sizing would be happening regardless of an operational referendum in a couple of weeks. That's the right thing to do. And because we are working tirelessly on that work, the referendum numbers are what we need in addition to those savings. So that referendum number could be much bigger if we were going to sit back and take and keep what it is we have. But we've chosen not to do that. We've chosen to come forward and say, we know we need to right size. We know that we need to adjust to the current climate and the current needs of the community and our students. That work will continue. And that work coincides with the operational referendum. And I don't think anyone in the community should expect anything less from you or us certainly moving forward. So if the referendum is not successful on April 4th, we are looking at a $6.8 million deficit for next year. That's a real number. And what we've tried to do is illustrate for people what a number like 6.8 million, because unless you're talking about an NFL draft, I'm not sure that that number gets used a whole lot. And I'm pretty sure no one in this room has a reference point for what that number might actually mean in practicality. And our effort in providing these examples were not at all to provide a threat. Our effort was to provide examples to give a demonstration of scale. Clearly, we're not going to come back in April and shut down the middle school. Clearly, we're not going to eliminate 95% of the teaching staff at the high school. Our effort here was to demonstrate what does the scale. because these are not trims. These are not even cuts at this scale. They're more significant than that. Whether it happens all at once, whether it happens over time, whatever that case might be, it's not possible for us to come up with a specific itemized list of things that would happen in April. That's the work that we would need to do together. So our effort here is simply to demonstrate by scale what is it that a $6.8 million deficit looks like in the school district. The other thing that I would point out on this slide, and we've been abundantly clear about and is clearly answered in our FAQs, is that the proposed referendum would allow for the public school tax rate to be at or below the current tax rate. And yes, that is possible based on the decisions that the board, administration, and others leading up to this referendum have made. It positions the community to be able to pass a referendum and not see an increase to their tax rate. We've been very responsive. For instance, Mr. Demarath and I were at the Kiwanis Club almost a couple of weeks ago now. We've been in other places throughout the community. We've been taking emails and phone calls and visits from people. Anytime we have a new question, it's added to our frequently asked questions literally within hours. That document is updated very regularly. One of the questions we had a couple of weeks ago was just what I was describing. What is this right sizing piece? How does it relate? And then also a question about how is it that you can ask for more money and not have it be an increase to the tax rate? Those answers are there. And as people have subsequent questions, we answer those as well. So we would really encourage people, and I know people have done an excellent job of directing people to fortschools.org/vote. There's information there for you, but also this frequently asked question document, as I've mentioned, is updated very regularly. We have been in the past, and we will continue to be as absolutely transparent as humanly possible. We have nothing to hide or nothing that we're not happy to share with the public to make sure that they are as informed as possible moving forward. So we're asking people to be informed and to vote on April 4th. And we have 3 different ways that people can do that. One is early in-person voting. That is, for instance, in the city of Fort Atkinson, beginning on March 21st during regular business hours at the municipal building. And for those of our district members that live in other municipalities, you can check with your municipal clerk to see when or if you are able to do early in-person voting. For others who might be interested, you're able to continue to register for an absentee ballot. I know mine was in my mailbox today, but they will be coming for others who have requested those at different dates as well. That continues to be available to you. And then, of course, you can vote in person, April 4th at your local municipality. And clearly, as I've said a couple of different times here, if you have questions, if you have things that you would like further information on, we would love for you to visit the place of all of our information, which is fortschools.org/vote, or certainly reach out to us via phone or email as well, and we'd be happy to do our very best to get whatever it is that you need. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have related to the upcoming referendum.
Some of the questions I'm getting from my constituents, I guess you can call them that, is what happened to all the ESSER funds? And if we got ESSER funds, why do we need the operational referendum?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, ESSER funds are so misunderstood. They are one-time funds to be responsive to COVID. One of the things, in fact, we have an award-winning communications set up on our website, like literally award-winning, that communicates how our ESSER funds were used. Members of the sitting board then that are continuing to be members here and others, we're proud of how we used ESSER funds. We used them for kids and we used them for families. We used them to support coming out of the pandemic, which is exactly what they were intended to do. We didn't do maintenance. We didn't put in football fields. We didn't do things that weren't specifically related to students' needs coming out of a pandemic. The problem with ESSER funds, and I think what's difficult for people to understand, is they were never intended to be an alternative funding source long-term. They're one-time money. So we spent ours just like we were supposed to. We're not banking it and waiting for a rainy day. We definitely are using it over a period of time as we're allowed to, but we're not holding that back. And that was never the intention. So I appreciate the question, because I know how hard we've worked to communicate related to ESSER funds during the time that they've been available and continue to do so as well.
And when you're talking, I mean, I think that it's important, the 6.8 million is important. And I think it is a little bit shocking, and it might seem like a bit of a scare tactic, which I don't think it is, to say 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school operating. But we're not talking, there won't be a musical in the spring, and there might be only 2 band concerts and not
Right.
3. I mean, the 16% is a significant amount of the budget.
Yeah, so it's interesting, you know, I was talking with a gentleman earlier this evening, you know, when we came out of the referendum cycle in November, one of the criticisms maybe or suggestions we had is that we weren't very good at communicating what was at risk or what does that really mean. And this was our effort to do that, to just give an idea of scale, because you're right, this isn't about tweaking a program or maybe not doing a certain something, it's much more significant than that. So our effort, if you look at those examples, were to give things that aren't going to readily happen instantly if the referendum isn't successful, but instead just giving people an idea of, yeah, that's 16% of an overall budget, and that's not just a trim.
And so the district could look very different than how it does today.
It could, and over time, I mean, I think that's the work that we and the board would need to do, which is what is it that is going to systematically change over time, and what is at risk for the district then losing some of our students to other neighboring districts that have had successful operational referendums? What is it that happens when our new housing projects come online around town? What is it when we eliminate or choose to move away from certain things that have been points of pride for certain people in our district? None of those are fear tactics. Those are, I think, legitimate concerns and worries when you're talking about a number that's significant. The other thing I would just say is that this number would be significantly higher in other communities that haven't been as fiscally prudent and haven't done as much prior planning and haven't done as much accurate projecting as we have moving forward. As much as this may look to some like, wow, this is a need they could have avoided, this need would be dramatically more if we and the other board members, yourselves and past, hadn't done what I just described. We're, as we described to other communities and other districts that we work with, we're in very good financial condition. We're in very good financial condition. We are also dealing with a funding source or lack of funding source that is not meeting the current economic needs of the district. Thus, the need for many, if not almost most, public schools to be asking their constituents for operational referendums. We said we would be back 3 years ago, and it's 3 years plus a little bit more. The other thing that we're excited about in this, based on what I've been saying over the past several minutes, is that we can get out 4 years with this. We can get out 4 years. And it would be really, really awesome for all of your educators to be able to focus all of their energy over the next 4 years on doing the very best we can to meet some pretty strategic or pretty dramatic strategic plan goals. That's what's perhaps most or one of the more exciting pieces of this particular referendum is that it gets us out another year than what we've been doing the past several cycles.
As far as being fiscally prudent, we don't have any long-term debt now, do we?
So we have the debt that was approved by the electors in November, the $22 million.
Yeah.
But the reason that we were able to structure that debt as we did is because the past boards had defeased debt early.
Yeah.
The high school was paid off significantly earlier than it was supposed to. Other past capital referendums had been taken care of. It's also because of the passage of that capital referendum that the tax rate will not change or will perhaps go down with the safe passage of this referendum moving forward.
Can you talk a little bit about the per pupil increase over the last number of years?
Yes, so one of the mechanisms that's supposed to work effectively from the state budget is that there's an annual increase in per pupil spending, or money that we get per student from the state. It had been customary over the years that that would approach meeting inflation, or that it would approach meeting some of the prevalent needs around the state of Wisconsin. And that has shifted dramatically over the past decade, or perhaps even pushing 2 decades now, where the effort from the state legislature has been pushing onto local school districts to go to the electors to ask for the funds they need, because those funds are not coming through in any meaningful way through the state budget. So most recently, the past 2 years, we've had a 0% increase in state per pupil funding coming, okay? So I think all of us as consumers and as community members know that the cost of living and other expenses with or without a pandemic have been significantly different. We have received nothing to accommodate for that difference. So I would like to think with what we're asking for here in just a couple of weeks, there's pretty good economy in the numbers that we're bringing forward, because they could be more significant. The other thing that I would just point out is that we are in the beginning of the new biennial budget process, and so it will be interesting to see what comes through. We're clearly hoping that the legislature continues to really wrestle with whether or not they're going to take responsibility for funding public education, which was the intent of public education in the state of Wisconsin. And if that's the case, if we are able to get additional state funding beyond what we are projecting, the board would be able to determine whether or not to use that money or not, and turn that back to the electors. So this referendum sets the most that the board could engage over the next 4 years. It doesn't obligate the board to do so. So if there are other funds coming through, and I hope there are, as a taxpayer, like all of us, we would expect the state to help our tax dollars matriculate back to basic services such as public education. The board is not obligated to spend all of these funds. This is the maximum that the board would be able to spend.
Can you revisit some of the communication I've been getting from, via email or from the public, whatever it may be, is, and you brushed on it just a couple minutes ago, but why have we not put a here's what's being cut list out to the public?
We've never worked on fear tactics.
Yes.
We've never have. And quite honestly, we've always had incredible support from our electorate when it comes to funding schools in Fort Atkinson. And I'm certainly not going to repeat everything I've just shared over the past 20 minutes, but all of that is true in getting us to the level of service that people are accustomed to. I'm not sure in any times, let alone these times, we benefit from dividing our community over what would potentially be lost, cut, trimmed, adjusted, or changed before we have the funding that we need just to operate the school district. And these are not small, as we've been talking about, numbers here. This isn't an adjustment to a program or cutting one thing. This is systemic change, and that would take time. So there aren't blueprints for that dollar amount anywhere. There aren't lists of things waiting. But the next item on your agenda is to honor a request that I have for a special board meeting on April 6th. Because if we need that meeting to talk about what comes next, we're going to need to roll up our sleeves and figure out how it is that we move forward. So our best effort right now is to give people an idea of scale. And that is, we're not making trims if this thing is not successful.
Thank you.
So Rob, just to clarify, kind of listening to you say that basically due to the lack of state funding, the state essentially has kind of passed the buck to their local districts in order for them to be responsible to support their public schools. And so as a result, it's kind of come down to us to try to figure out how we can pay our bills, service our kids' education with quality programs and teachers. Is that pretty much as clear as I can understand it?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you stating that as such. That's exactly it. I mean, there was always an understanding that through tax dollars in Wisconsin, public schools were funded somewhat adequately to meet the needs of students and families in their local communities. And what's happened is that shift through lack of funding in the budget has come to the electors. And what's happened is they've created a necessary referendum machine for us to continue to go to the electors and ask for adequate funding. You know, these aren't nice to have things. You know, a community can decide whether or not to build a new building or to add some facilities or to do things. Some of those, and certainly not all of those, are nice to haves. Some of them are need to haves. We're talking about operating expenses here. And that's purely because the state is not honoring their obligation, nor have they for many. So when you look at the number, I believe there's 67 referendums this cycle, and there were even far more the last November cycle.
Eli, I think it was 84.
Okay, yeah, honestly,
last
numbers are swimming for me a little bit. That number increases every single election cycle because virtually all public school systems, certainly most, are needing operational referendums to offset the lack of funding from the state. So this isn't something that's special to Fort Atkinson. And when you look around our geographical area, there's not a neighboring district that adjoins to our district that isn't working with an operational referendum and are passing them successfully. That's been our understanding with our community in the past, and we certainly are hoping people will take in whatever information they can before April 4th.
And of course, the other point is the state is sitting on significant surplus funds.
I believe we're using the number 8 now, is that correct?
8, okay, well.
So with that in mind, I mean, obviously, the thing we can do about the state legislature is you can vote however you want to vote and hope that they, you know, distribute the up to now $8 billion, billion with a B. But essentially, the legislature is saying, put it back into the community's hands. I mean, and I'm trying to put this in a positive way, because if they're saying put it back in the community's hands, then it's the community that has to rally around the district. It's the community that has to say, this is what we need, this is how we want to support our district, and this is what it takes to support it.
And when you pass a successful operational referendum, that's exactly how it feels, which is the upside of that, which is here we are telling you what we do, telling you where it is that we want to go, sharing with you what the vision is for our students moving forward. Support us. And that vote does mean that. And we've never, ever taken that for granted. And if you take a look at some of the changes over the past few years, whether it's strategic plan, whether it's changing servicing for students and families, and that list goes on, we've been very responsive. And the voters have met us there in the past in successful operational referendums.
And I would say it was an ecstatic feeling to pass the capital referendum, to know that the community is rallying around, you know, maintenance at our schools and capital
Absolutely.
projects and secure entrances and things that are necessary
Absolutely.
for the capital, you know, improvements that we need. That the community said, yes, we agree that this is important, that our schools can have these projects be done. But just like we're all feeling the pinch of, you go to the grocery store and you're paying more for food, you're going to Menards and you're paying more for, you know, home improvement projects. I mean, we're essentially like strapped saying we have to be paying in 2012 prices, but now it's 2023. So, I mean, I just have one silly administrative question, because I know that the referendum questions can be ridiculously worded. And this election is not one that has, I mean, it does have big names on there with Matt Loop and Corey Nickman and Amy Reynolds and the school board, and it has, I think, maybe there's a city council and Supreme Court. I mean, where is this and how is it worded on the ballot? Like,
Sure.
is there anything,
Yeah,
We're on
so.
the back.
Like, we
Yeah.
want to
So-
get people out to vote, but.
So we believe we're on the back of the ballot. I just got a text as we were meeting from somebody that got their absentee that said we're on the front with lots of emojis, so that's.
Oh, that's
You know, of
exciting.
all things you think you would celebrate, it's like where your question is on a ballot, but that's where we're at. So, two things to your question, and thank you for that. Just a reminder, referendum questions need to be written in a very specific way related to state statute. You cannot state them any more simply than the question that we have. I can promise you there is not an extra word in our question that has to be there as required by statute. So in November, we heard from people that, you know, like, just at the end, just say what it is. You can't do that. So the question is, and so in all of our items that we're sending out related to communication, we're noting what the question actually is verbatim, and then defining that in more simple terms, like what that means. So don't feel like we're just watering things down to just a random number. We're trying to help people find definition there. Because admittedly, when you get a ballot and there's a 2-inch column, those questions look even more intimidating, I think, as well. So that's the reason the question is as it is. But then also, depending on your municipality, please be sure to look for the question, because in some cases it will be on the back of the ballot. And we know in November that we did lose some of our electors that didn't turn the ballot over. So
So we're not testing people on whether they have a PhD in something as
No.
far as how it's written. It has to be written.
It's
that
one of those things that's frustrating because the amount of regulation related to how you must run a referendum, which I understand clearly why it exists, it's very unapproachable for many people, which I'm hoping wasn't the intent either. So anything we can do to help people understand that, I appreciate you asking that again.
All right, do we have any further questions or comments from the board tables?
I think I just want to, kind of echoing and reiterating, just saying thank you for the transparency and the communication in kind of a one-stop shop, because I just went on here just to see how easy it was. I've done that before, but again, in real time, being able to ask a question and be able to be answered as well for any questions that I may have with regard to anything in specific the referendum. I think it's nice to have that opportunity to be able to talk directly to the district. Also, just as a reminder of my own civic duty that, you know, in order for me to be supportive or to have a voice, that you have given us very many opportunities on absentee voting, early voting, and when to vote. So I think it's really important that we all remember that what our responsibility is as well, moving forward with regard to what we need to do in order to support our district. So,
Well said.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, thank you for the presentation tonight on the operational referendum. Moving forward to item C under non-instruction.
Yeah, so as I explained a few minutes ago, we are asking to set a special board meeting. We are suggesting that be April 6th, beginning at 5 p.m., post-referendum election on the 4th. So clearly, we're hoping that we can cancel that meeting, but we, in order to have a meeting with you, need to get that on the books now, just for public meetings requirements.
Be it resolved that a special Board of Education meeting be conducted on Thursday, April 6th, 2023 at 5 p.m. I so move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Rogers, a second by Ms. Reynolds. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, moving on to items for future board meetings.
Yes, among other items, we'll have approval of the 2023-24 compensation system. These are probably over the course of several months here. The school nursing services update, preliminary notices of non-renewal as needed, budget proposals, and election results.
All righty. Thank you. And at this point, we are going to go into closed session here. And I'm assuming moving to boardroom.
And we need a motion to go into closed session.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Probably need that first. All right, we're going into closed session. We have a motion in front of us here.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education go into closed session on authority granted in Wisconsin Statute 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses C, and Wisconsin Statute 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses 5, to discuss and take action, if appropriate, concerning employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and concerning financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, specifically to address district administrator performance, evaluation, contracts, benefits, and employment-related costs as a closed session item permitted under 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses C, of the Wisconsin statutes.
I'll second all of that.
Motion by Ms. Selly, a second by Ms. Reynolds, and a roll call, Ms. Haas.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mrs. Selly?
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mrs. Bookta?
Yes.
Mr. Nickram?
Yes.